welcome to another Python video. This will be the last video that I'll have on lessons on my Google Collab, the one created by my friends and myself. So this will show a lot of the basic knowledge of Python, and from here I'll make a few other videos showing some other knowledge that I'll include in some exercises. But here we go. So under our agenda, I have moved to Python lesson 3, and under lesson 3 we'll be using the define keyword, which is what we will use with classes and methods. And then we'll move on to lesson 4, considering how short both lessons are. And I'll show some examples with the def keyword, and that will wrap up this video. So as always, please subscribe, please like my channel. I want it to grow as always. And I didn't decide to do any comedy this week. Instead, I included an image of myself going to a dance and my grandma, Mamiya. She's very, very important to me, and I think that would be a cool image to show on my channel. But anyways, we'll dive right in. So Python session 3. So we have the define keyword, and this is it. This is pretty much what we'll be going over. So this def is essentially, I can write over here, a short way of saying define. And some programmer somewhere when they were writing Python decided that they wanted to shorten it down to def, and that's why, it's highlighted in blue instead of define is this way. And I can't tell you why they decided that way. There's some methods out there that are shortened down, some methods that aren't. Some methods I feel like should be shortened down but aren't. But that's just how it is. And I like to think of this as defined as I showed. Define my func, and that will give, hello, my name is Alexa. And if I run anyways, then I should get my name is Alexa. And if I don't, then that's probably because it wasn't called. Well, it works. But anyways, parameter is a variable listed inside the parentheses in the function define. So I will go over right here. So this is a parameter. So we're transitioning from methods to parameters. And parameters are variables, as mentioned here. And an argument is the value that is sent to the function when it is called. So I'll jump right here. This is a function, as I'm sure we've gone over before. But here we have a function with our parameter, and our parameter is taking in, it's our variable essentially. So here we have print our variable, and we're concatenating that with this random whatever that is. And we're calling all of these. So if I comment this out, or if I apply it, I get email rims. For clarity reasons, let me go into my replit, and I have f name is, I don't know, let me do my name. And then I have my func, email, Tobias, and Linus. So if I run this, you'll see Emil Andres. And then I have Tobias Andres. So they're calling first names, or we can do my last name, which is Lauder, if I can spell that correctly. And you can see all of these people have that last name of Lauder. And what we're doing is we're taking this parameter here, and we're concatenating it. And under this method, we have my func is your first name and your last name, hence the f name and the L name. We have f name plus double quotes right here to show them being put together plus L name. And, we can get a reference right here, Emil, and this last name, which I'll try not to pronounce right now. But you can see how that works. And this is all possible using our def keyword, right? Because that's how we get a function, and our parameter. So if the number of arguments is known, add a asterisk, which is our above the 8 keyword, add an asterisk before the parameter name. So if I have my function here and I add an asterisk, that asterisk is known as an argument, or an args, not an argument, excuse me, but args in web development, and actually in Python programming too, not just web development. And I was explained args kind of like a garbage collector. It collects variables and whatever's being passed in, and then it gives them back out to you. And it's more helpful than you think. I've seen several exercises where you need to include args to collect your variables and whatever's being passed in, or else it'll just seclude that and it'll only pick one, and that's not what you want. So if I run this, the youngest child is Linus. I think I pronounced that correctly. Because we're collecting all of these these three names, and we're going which one is the youngest, and we're calling it kid 2, so 0, 1, 2. That child has got to be the youngest. And that's all possible using args and our parameter. Now, you may use the equal sign value format. So if we have here, we have 3 parameters, which is totally okay. We can have as many parameters as we want. We'll don't do a crazy amount of parameters, but 3 works. 3 works fine. And we print the youngest child is, and we're concatenating child 3. So if we run that, the youngest child is Linus. Here we have child 1 is Emil, Tobias, and Linus. And because we're looking for child 3, we get Linus. Now I'm going to change the order here. What happens if I do child 2? Child is Tobias. You can see how these are being called because we have our parameter here being assigned a separate name. Now, if you do not know how many keyword arguments that will be passed into your function, add 2 asterisks before the parameter name in the function. And this is called quarks. Yeah, this is programming for you. They're the weirdest names ever. There's args, which is 1 asterisk, and quarks, which is 2 asterisks. And this is, he said web development, but it's in any programming. And this is, as I mentioned before, will be passed into your function at 2 asterisks. So that way you do not know how many keyword arguments will be passed into your function. So if I run this, his last name is, see, it's embarrassing to have a name that I don't want to try to pronounce. So it's collecting these, and we're calling quarks. And kid, which is our parameter, is being assigned lname. And lname is equal to my last name. So that's why we're getting here. His last name is kid, and inside we have lname, which is being assigned here. Pretty straightforward if you can understand the logic behind this programming. But to write it yourself, especially at an early stage as a beginner, can be pretty difficult. You know, that's something that a lot of us struggle with at first, and just knowing your basics, knowing your fundamentals can be really helpful, and these go past the fundamentals. You know, this is stuff that I didn't cover in videos 1 or 2. This is stuff I'm covering in video, I think, 6. So it can be confusing, but you know, just keep to this definition if you do not know how many keyword arguments will be passed into your function. Add 2 asterisks. And of course, you're welcome to Google it too. There's documentation everywhere for this sort of thing. So I'll move on. To let a function return a value, use the return statement. Now this is something I don't remember I taught in one of my videos, but there's a difference between a method and a statement, a function and a statement. And the difference is this is a statement because it doesn't include these parentheses. You know, if we include those parentheses, then that won't mean anything. That'll break our code. So if I have here def myfunc x, so whatever x is times 5, and here we can have 3, so 3 times 5, 15, 5 times 5, 25, and you see that's essentially what my function is being assigned to, that x with this parameter. And down here, by calling in pass, that's essentially allowing us to pass in this this keyword. So if I were to comment this out really quickly, if it'll let me, oh, it won't let me. Then you can see that if we don't include this, it shouldn't work. You see, this is why I don't like using this old systems, but it shouldn't work because we're not passing anything through. But it does work because Google Collab is like, oh, okay, we're going to be very I'm complaining here. Anyways, a parameter is the variable listed inside the parentheses in the function definition. An argument is the value that is sent to the function when it is called. So like a lambda argument expression, we haven't gone over this, so you don't need to worry about that. But this is a little example of a lambda. And like I said with quarks and args, you know, there's stuff out there that I want to show you that I think would be very helpful, that you know it's out there, but it's not ideal for you to learn right now. I think it's really important that you know it's out there, and then eventually when you need it, you can research it yourself. So I'll just know that a lambda is a parameter variable listed inside the parentheses in the function definition, like here. An argument is the value that is sent to the function when it is called. Anyways, I'll move on here. And we're going through arrays. Now, arrays are very important. And here is your first array. And it looks similar to a list. You know, arrays are used to store multiple values in one single variable. It's a lot like a list, but it's, I don't want to say it's a synonym, but it's just a tad different. So when you hear arrays and you hear lists, think about a similar thing. So if I run this, I should get Ford, Volvo, BMW because we're calling cars, and I get Ford, Honda, Chrysler because I get our second. You know, we're using all of these methods that I'd gone over. One video, we have the append for adding one more element to the end of the array. That's what we're doing here. We're adding Honda, as seen here. We're deleting one of the elements from the array, pop, as I had gone over. So you can see that when we have an array, we're welcome to call any function to mess with that array, essentially. Now on to Python session 4. So I hope this helped really quickly. Let me wrap through. We have the def function. We have variables can be set with parameters, quarks and args, right? And we have our lambda, which I didn't really go over because it can be kind of tricky. And now on session 4. So do not be intimidated by the content that you're saying. This can be pretty intimidating, and I'll actually just go here and run this so that way you can see it better. But what we have here is we have a class. So this is object-oriented programming, and this is stuff that I'll be covering in later videos of mine when I get into Unity game design, because we use a lot of object-oriented programming in that. And class person is our class. I don't want to use another word because that's what it is, but think of it like the biggest box. You have little boxes, so you have variables in one box, then inside that box you have a method, inside that box you have a class. So you can see here, this entire thing is all person, class person, but this is our function init, and this is our second function. So back in our Google Colab, you can see that this assigns object properties to other operations by using this init key phrase. And here we have to include self. Self is very important. You know, you're welcome to call it a different thing, but many programmers call it self.name. So this is an object-oriented programming. We list a variable name by calling init self. So self.name equals name. And I hope that's not too confusing, because it is a little confusing. And here we have another example. So if we have this class, student, and our parameter is person, hence that's our other class. If we have init, self, and then we have these parameters, we can call super, which is an init function to transfer all methods and properties from the parent class. So we're moving things over by super.init, which is being called here. We have name, first name, and last name. Now what we can also do is we can, self.graduation year equals year, and we can use all of these callings to get this. Welcome Mike Olson to the class of 2019, Mike Olson 2019. And that's what's going on here. X equals student, Mike Olson 2019. And we're putting that together with here. But right here. So print welcome self.first name, which is possible here. And we're making sure we're defining all of these variables. Self last name to the class of graduation year. And I hope that makes sense. Those are some tricky things to cover that we've gone over, but I want to expose you to them because I feel like it's important when I dive into more exercises a little later on in my course that you'll recognize these, and I'll go over them too if you forget, but you'll recognize these. You'll know that there's init, self, you'll know that there's quarks, args, all of these different things. And yeah, I mean, that's the basics of Python programming. Of course, there's so many other topics I can branch off of, but right now I want to make sure that you are exposed to the Google Colab course, and I hope this helps. Thank you again.